Eddie is one of our favorite guests at the Senior Center, so this is a little different, but Eddie, they're here to see you without food. So that's exciting. You alone are enough of an attraction. So we're so glad to have you today. As a reminder to our participants, if you're not comfortable at all with your image potentially being shown on cable TV, make sure that you turn off your camera. And if you haven't met Eddie, he's wonderful. He's been coming to the center for a long time, it seems now, with a little break here because of COVID, presenting great topics and answering a lot of healthcare questions. You did a brown bag session for us to help people make sure their medications were accurate and current. So he's very, very good to us. And we've got you twice now, today and again on Tuesday, to talk about COVID. Right. So make sure you sign up to come and listen to Eddie talk about how we can beat COVID together on Tuesday at 1. But today we're talking about seasonal flu. It's a hot topic. And I think, did we make Eddie a host so he can share his slides?
Eddie, I just gave you permission to share slides. Can you see
Perfect.
that?
I can.
Okay.
The floor is yours, Eddie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Hi, Ms. Golden.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Great. Great. Okay, so let me move my people up here. Perfect. So those of you who don't know me, that I'm Eddie Martucci. I am the pharmacist manager at Walpole Big Y. Just a quick blurb about me. I went to pharmacy school 153 years ago. Actually, 35 years ago, I graduated from the University of Connecticut with a degree in pharmacy, a bachelor's of science, and then I also had a minors in economics, and I've owned my own pharmacy, and I've run Big Y pharmacies for the last 11 years. And I want to talk about the 2020-2021 flu vaccine. And the biggest question on pretty much everybody's mind is, should I get the shot? Flu season is ahead. I don't know if you've seen these signs on the road. You probably haven't. They should be up there, because we should really get the flu vaccine. The vaccine this year for 2020-2021 has had several changes. 3 of the 4 strains from last year have been changed. Last year's strains were a little bit different. The quadrivalent flu, which means that it has 4 different strains to protect us against flu vaccine, has 2 A strains and 2 B strains. Both A strains have been changed, and one of the B strains has been changed from last year. The high-dose flu vaccine for those of us over 65 and older has changed in the volume that is given in injection. It used to be 1/2 of an ml. It's now 3/4 of an ml. And the manufacturers have increased production. Unfortunately, for the high-dose flu, that doesn't match to distribution, because we haven't been able to get a whole lot of high-dose flu vaccine in stock yet. The next slide just shows what the strains are. In the egg-based production of the flu vaccine, you're going to have the 2 A strains are both from China, the Guangdong and Maoan strain and Hong Kong strain. The B strain that did change is the Washington State strain, which is similar to the Victoria strain in Canada that's been popular in the B strains. Last year, it was the B strain of Colorado, which is again an offshoot of that Victoria Canada strain. And then the Phuket strain in Thailand is the same as it was last year. And the Washington strain they added because the cruise ships for the COVID-19 came in, and they thought into Washington, Seattle, and they thought maybe that would help us with a little bit of protection. Normally, the best time to get your flu vaccination for a healthy adult is the 2nd week of October to the 2nd week of November. And I know a lot of people have been asking, do we want to get it earlier? These are all the questions that are going out there from people talking to their physicians, talking to their healthcare professionals, the nurses, the pharmacists. Should I get the flu vaccine earlier this year? Should I get 1 shot now and get another in January? That certainly is not unheard of. When I was in Ellington as the pharmacy manager of the Big Y there, I had several people that did get 2 flu vaccines. The only problem is, did their insurance company cover 2 in 1 season? That's something we can cross that bridge if you need to come to it. And should you get the COVID-19 vaccine when it's available. If you are thinking about getting the seasonal flu vaccine this year earlier than normal, I would recommend it if you are in one of these risk groups. And the category top is not wrong. These are the COVID-19 risk groups. So it's adults, people over 65 years of age, people in nursing home over 80 years of age, those with heart disease, respiratory disease, diabetes, and immunocompromised. And then after the immunocompromised category, we have several new categories that were labeled in May as to also high-risk individuals for COVID-19. Body mass index of greater than 40, people who are HIV, people who live on the streets, low income, and then cancer, kidney disease, and liver disease were added as well in May. So if you're part of this group, I would recommend that you get your flu vaccine earlier than you normally would. This is a little bit about the COVID-19, and those of you who are going to join us on Tuesday, you're going to see this slide again because I just copied and pasted. I learned how to do that today from my daughter, who's a 4th grade teacher. So thank you to teachers out there, past and present. The 3 vaccines that are in stage 3 clinical trials are, the first one that came was from Moderna out in Cambridge, and their vaccine was made in our cousins at Norwood. And that went into stage 3 clinical trials July of this year. AstraZeneca had one that went in August, and this month Pfizer-BioNTech also added theirs to the stage 3 clinical trials. And if you look at some of the news blurbs that you see on the internet, you see some of the families that are starting in. I guess one of the families they started had 7 members die from COVID, so they started that family member on the new vaccine to see if that would help. What is the safest way to stay away from all viruses, whether it's the regular cough and cold, our seasonal flu, or for COVID-19, is washing and sanitizing, and we do that very well. We've been learning to do that since March, since COVID came into existence on this planet, and it is the best way to make sure that we do not get infected with a virus or a bacteria, but mostly the viruses we're worried about here. What they did with the World Health Organization when they put in to decrease human contact, these are things that we can still do: is social distance, limit travel, wear a mask, limit touching your eyes, nose, and mouth, elbow bumps. One of the things I do want to say, one of the best things, and I'll repeat this on Tuesday, of how long should you wash your hands when you've been outside and you're coming back home. They say 20 seconds, or if you sing happy birthday to yourself twice, you can do it out loud or to yourself. My wife never lets me do it out loud. And if I sang in front of you, you would know why. The other example that I had is that you just made salsa and you used a nice jalapeno pepper to make your salsa. And now you want to insert your contact lenses. How well are you going to wash your hands to make sure you get all that jalapeno off your fingers? That's one of the ways that you can wash your hands to make sure that you're killing the virus. Soap and water does the best job. Soap kills the virus. The water flushes it off of our skin. Vigorous hand washing also manually, physically breaks the virus cells. So that's very helpful as well. I put this up for Reader's Digest. It's actually a really good website about what kills bacteria. I was on the website. I checked it out first before I put it up on my slides. And it's really good. It does have some ads in there, so I hope you like Flo from Progressive, because she peeks in every now and then to see if you want to buy some insurance from her. But it does give you a really good list as to what will kill bacteria. It tells you the differences between bacteria and viruses. And it also has a list of things that are not good at killing viruses and bacteria. And that website is www.rdforreadersdigest.com/advice/what-kills-bacteria. You can also just go into any search engine and do Reader's Digest What Kills Bacteria, and the website will come up as well. In conclusion, for should you get the flu vaccine, some of the conclusions that we have to keep ourselves safe is to keep doing social distancing, staying 6 feet apart if you can, wear your face mask to cover your nose and your mouth, wash your hands, and last but not least, get your flu shot. I am a proponent in vaccinations. There's something called herd immunity, H-E-R-D, herd immunity. That means if you vaccinate 95% of the population, you eliminate that disease state. And so get your flu shots, fight the flu, and be proud wearing your flu vaccine Band-Aid after you get your flu shots. I just left it with the last picture is a nice sunrise. We're entering into a new social world with COVID-19, but I think we can all stay safe and healthy, and there are ways that we can do that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we can offer any questions that we have. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask? You can unmute yourself and ask.
I have a couple.
Sure, go ahead, Linda. Sure, go ahead.
Okay. First, I just want to ask you if you know that Malky Marshall on Channel 4. I watch her occasionally. I know it's controversial, but she recommends that you get it later rather than sooner in terms of the time frame that you mentioned, but people are already getting it now. And what I need to ask you, because I noticed you said to get it, the sooner the better.
If you have those risk factors.
Oh, okay. That's what I wanted to be clear of.
Well,
If it meant, if you're in that category of any of those.
Let me address that for you. The reason that they recommend the second week of October through the second week of November to get vaccination, first of all, it takes 14 days for you to become fully immune with your antibodies built to that vaccination. Number two, that will cover you through to March based on historical data. Is it 100%? Of course not. It isn't 100%. So if you get it, let's say Halloween, you get it on Halloween right before all the kids come trick-or-treating to your house, you're pretty much assured to be covered for the flu strains that you have in there and some of the strains that are second cousins to those strains until March. Here in New England, normally our flu season is over by the end of January. Now, having said that, I can contradict myself right away. And 5 years ago, we did have a very large outbreak of flu here in Massachusetts at the end of February. So 2 years after that, for the following 3 years, one of the B strains that was in there was the Massachusetts B strain of virus. And that was because it was a very virulent virus. We can get back to that second question that I had up on the slides with talking to your doctors and what are people saying. Should you get a vaccine now and get one again in January? Will that give you that full protection? It most certainly will. Will you have to pay out of pocket? Maybe. I don't think Medicare Part B is going, which covers your flu vaccine fully for the high dose for seniors, is going to pay for another one in January. Or if they do, they won't pay for the one that you get in the fall of 2021 because now you're in a new calendar year. It's a $75 shot. Is that worth being protected? I'm sure everybody's saying yes, but that could be one way if you have all those risk factors or two or more of those risk factors and you get your vaccination now, then it probably would be a good idea to get it now and then get another shot in January.
Okay. And the other question I have is, do you have any statistics on the fatality rates for the flu? Because I know that people have been comparing what has happened with COVID
Absolutely.
to what happened already with the flu. Just some
Absolutely.
comparative numbers.
Sure, absolutely. On Tuesday, if you join us on Tuesday, I will show you comparative mortality rates for COVID-19, some other cross-species viruses and pandemics that have happened. Normally, the flu vaccination mortality rate is between 0.4% and 0.5%, so 0.5%. 16.5 million people were infected with the flu vaccine in 2018, 2019, and 80,000 people died. Last year, only 36,000 people died, but that was because less people were infected with the flu vaccine. So that's the difference. When you're talking about COVID-19, the mortality rate to date is about 3.6 to 3.9%. But that also includes all these new cases that are being tested positive after the fact. And there's some flaws in positive test accumulation. For instance, let's say I went to Massachusetts, the governor on August 3rd stated that there's safe states that you can travel to without coming back and doing a 14-day isolation period or getting a negative COVID test are the New England states, New Jersey, and New York. And our little sister Rhode Island is sometimes on that list of being safe and sometimes off that list of being safe, depending on what she did that day. So if you travel to those states, you can come back. You don't have to do your isolation. You don't have to get a COVID test. But let's say I went to South Carolina to golf with my brother, and I came back and I got a COVID test and I tested positive, even though I was asymptomatic. I have to isolate for 3 days, and I'm allowed to get another test. If I tested 3 more days again positive, that would count as a second positive test. So that's a little bit of flaw in the numbers. When we were in the middle of our COVID-19 pandemic in the end of March through the 2nd to 3rd week of April, we were seeing about a 5% mortality rate with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Yes, Jean?
Does the high dose one last longer if you got it? And when will it be available? Do you know that?
The question was, is the higher dose going to last longer to protect us longer through the year, I'm assuming you're meaning?
Yeah.
So like all the way through to March, and when will it be available? Those are great questions. The higher dose is not something that will last longer. What they've done is they've made the higher dose because they found that people over the age of 65 seem to produce more antibodies to a higher dose vaccine than to a regular vaccine. And they've also found over the last couple of years that if they give you a little bit more of the higher dose vaccine, your body does better to produce antibodies. So I don't think it's going to protect you longer through the season, but it is better if you're over 65, your body will make more antibodies. Now, have I had people who are very healthy 65-year-olds? I have a guy who still does half marathons, who's 72, that comes into my store. He gets the regular flu vaccine. He has no other health issues. When I turn 65, am I going to get the high dose? You bet I am. But that being said, I don't know. I don't think it will last longer. But I'm supposed to get my full shipment of high dose at the end of September. So it'll be ready for that. And Linda, that falls into your category of waiting later in the year to get the flu vaccine. You can get it in October.
Right.
Okay.
Other
you.
questions? Hi, Deb.
Hi, Eddie.
Forget my
why-
voicemail I left on your phone. Sorry.
That's okay. Why are schools mandating flu shots this year? Specifically with COVID being around, but how does that make it more important this year?
Herd immunity, as I spoke of earlier with the slides, is a real thing. If you vaccinate 95% of the people against a pathogen, it goes away because it can't live. The flu vaccine is unusual, and that's why it's a seasonal vaccine, because they can't predict exactly which strain will come out there. There are thousands of strains of viruses. Viruses replicate and change very quickly. Humans, it takes us, 100 generations to change to make sure that we have 5 fingers instead of 3 from when we were tadpoles that crawled out of the ocean, if you believe that evolutionary tale. So viruses, generations are very short. So that's why they can change within a season. They can change to say, oh, the human body is not allowing me to attach. So I'm going to build a better hook to hook onto that cell to do that. So the more antibodies you have to something that is similar, the better you are to protect yourself. So that's why I think it's more important to get the flu vaccine for everybody now. Yes, the governor has mandated that every child 6 months of age or older that is going into a public daycare or going into a public school, and especially all college students going back to school, must be vaccinated with a seasonal flu vaccine.
Okay.
Debbie,
Yes.
I don't think this is the time for the 2 questions that I sent in because
Okay, I was just going to ask that.
I didn't realize it was just for the flu. I thought we
That's
had
okay.
questions. So
I can send them to Eddie offline, and with you on copy, maybe he can answer them.
you don't need to do that.
Okay.
All right,
You can actually stop into the pharmacy if you want anytime. I'll be happy to talk to you.
good enough.
Any other questions?
Look like Irene
Yes,
had one.
Irene, go right ahead.
I have some underlying health problems. I've already gotten the vaccine yesterday.
Okay.
It's the high dose. Do
Perfect.
I have to get another one?
I would talk to your doctor about that come January. Just make sure, I'm sure that wherever you got it, they loaded it into the Massachusetts Immunization website. And this is for everybody. The Massachusetts Immunization website, it's called MIIS, it mandates that vaccinators load in all the vaccines that people have gotten. So your doctors have to be able to access that by law. All pharmacists have to be able to access that by law. So we can tell what vaccine you've gotten. So come January, talk to your doctor about it if they feel it's a health issue. I can tell you this from a personal experience. I normally get my flu vaccine the second week of October. Now, that just happens serendipitously because that's when I always went for my annual physical. But this year I do have asthma. It's controlled asthma. I do use an inhaler every day. I don't really need a rescue inhaler. Unless I'm angry because I'm not hitting the golf ball very well, then I will take one. But other than that, I am going to get my flu vaccination the first week of October. So I'm going to get it a week early. If I feel and I see in my job as a healthcare professional that maybe we're having a lot of symptoms happen in January, I might think about getting a second one. But right now I'm going to get one vaccine and I'm going to go with that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? I'm sorry we can't bring food to you guys like we used to. I asked the powers that be if I could, whoever showed up, trace their email and give them like a coupon to get a donut or something, but they told me that I would be out of my mind to try that because they couldn't supply thousands of donuts on a daily basis. But we'll get back to that. We will have our lunch and learns again, I'm sure. And we can go back to supplying that. I really do enjoy doing it. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to do that. The gentleman behind me here, who our grandson named Harry Elefante, is happy to be with all of our Zoom meetings that I have. I do introduce him at every single one. You can ask the town of Canton and the town of Westwood. I have. But thank you very much for the opportunity, guys. Carrie, Deb, and Sherry, thank you very much. And I look forward to talking to you guys again on Tuesday.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye.
Stay safe. Gene, I'm sure I'll see you soon.
I'll see you
Okey-doke.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.